Welcome to another edition of the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs, and our guest today is radio personality, voiceover talent, as well as soon-to-be author Fran Tunno. And she's also somebody I got to work with. And Fran, thank you for being with us. It's great to have you here.
It's been ages. I mean, I don't think I've talked to you since I was at Salem.
Yeah, it has been. Gosh, that was, 15 years ago?
Oh my God, I hate even thinking about it.
Oh,
Truly,
man.
I do.
Now, how long you been back east for?
I just moved here a couple of years ago. I have, my whole family is from Pittsburgh. And so, I thought, well, clearly these people are intent upon getting older, and I refuse to acknowledge my age. So, it's been one of those things where I just thought, I don't know how much time any of us has. Nobody does.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought, my kids have no intentions of doing anything like settling down and having babies. And so until they do, parents just kind of wait around to see where their kids plant themselves. and then they show up to babysit is usually how it works. But, yeah,
Definitely.
I'm back in Pittsburgh for the foreseeable future.
Oh, okay.
Because, I was old. I had my kids as a much older mom. And so, they're still in their 20s and just not interested in doing anything like settling down and having children. What can you do?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of 20-somethings are like that. So, especially.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I'm 50, so.
Are you? You are not? Are you really? Are you 50?
Actually 51. I just turned 51 back in February.
I'm sorry, Josh. I have a hard time believing that because you will forever be cemented in my head as like a 20-something guy, always.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, wow. Jeez. Okay.
Well, that's what happens when you work
go.
overnight for like 15 years, 20 years. And
Is that what? So you were working overnights at Salem? Is that what you were doing?
I was doing that for a long time. Yeah, I did that for about 12 years. And
oh, my God. Wow.
And then off and on for another couple years after that, because, I mean, I finally got daytime or at least evening in 2006 when I moved over to KRLA, and then did that for about 6 years, and then I got put back in the overnight. Did that for about 8 months, and then became Frank Pastore's producer, and was his producer for the final 7 months of his show, and then the interim show, and then the first 10 months of Sontag, and then went back to KRLA, and I did early mornings, but then about, 8 months later, they put me in the overnight. I did that for about 2 years, got tired of overnight, so went back to daytime again, and then overnight again. And so now I'm working from...
What are you doing? Are you still working with them?
I still am, yeah. I'm working the morning show with Jennifer Horn and Grant Stinchfield. I've been doing that for about... Yeah, Jennifer is Mike Horn's dad. Mike was the is the founder of Cable Radio Network, and he was on KRLA Hit Radio 11 back in the mid to late 70s, and then also on 64 KFI when it was top 40, and then he founded Cable Radio Network in about 1983, and then by 1987 he was self-sustaining enough to be able to get out of the radio stations that he was at and do cable radio full-time.
Oh, wow. Geez, you are a fount of radio information. So tell me about this podcast that you're doing. What is it? What's up with it?
Well, about a year and a half ago, Jay Gardner, who had been on KEarth 101 as well as 93 KHJ, started working as a board operator here back in 2020. And as we got talking, he was telling me all these great stories about having worked with David Letterman. He was good friends with Phil McKeon, who played Tommy on Alice, the sitcom.
Oh, wow.
And,
I remember it.
He was also did Weird Al Yankovic's movie UHF, which I love that movie. And so I thought...
I don't think I've ever seen that, but I do love Weird Al because he's weird.
Yeah, exactly. It's a funny movie. It's become a cult classic. And so when Jay was telling me all these stories, I thought, I got to put this to tape. This is just too good not to share. And so Jay was my first interview in studio, and we had about 5 20-minute long conversations. He moved to Austin about a year ago, and but then I thought, let me interview other people. So I've been calling up and writing emails and whatnot, and I've gotten to interview Ted Zingenbush, Brian Byrne.
Ted's a sweetheart.
Oh, he is, yeah. Brian Byrne, Mr. Rock and Roll from KRF 101. Then I just interviewed a couple weeks ago Larry Kenney, who is a big star in New York. He hosted the New York version of Bowling for Dollars. He's also the voice of Lion-O in Thundercat. And he also was on a bunch of country stations in the Big Apple. And so I got to talk with him and got to... Fun. So it's been fun. I mean, I you just never know what's going to happen. I talked with a guy named Willie B, who was on 10Q and worked with the real Don Steele. And Steele's wife, Shawn, was the first person to ever give me a job in radio. So,
wow.
and it's fun. I mean, it has worked sometimes, getting, I guess I'm batting about 350 when it comes to reaching out and booking, but, hey, I'll take that. That's good in baseball.
Yeah, well, you know what? The thing is in this business, just like if you're in sales, you just keep knocking on doors, and eventually one of them opens, and it could be a really great door. You just never know.
Yeah, exactly. And because also I noticed something with radio is that on YouTube you have these great videos of actors and writers and producers telling their stories both in television and movies, but there really wasn't anything as far as radio was concerned. I thought, well, let's change that.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool. Boy, too bad Charlie Tuna isn't alive. He always had some great stories. Oh,
I love Charlie Tuna. Dick Heatherton hosted a show years ago called AM/FM.
Did he?
He did, and I see him here on occasion at the station recording spots for Columbo's. Unfortunately, he had a stroke a couple of years ago.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, and so next time I see him, I said, those interviews you do with Alicia Flannery, I don't know if you still have them, but you might want to put them on YouTube, because I think a lot of people would be interested in those interviews, because he interviewed a lot of people that are no longer with us. I remember he interviewed Mark Dennis, Charlie Tuna, and I think that was the second time I met Charlie Tuna, and I had recently listened to an air check of his from about 1969 for Standard Brands, and I said, I liked your joke where he said, like, now if you're a little short, I don't mean you make your earning, if you're a little short, they accept your Bank of America card or MasterCharge. And Charlie's like, well, I don't remember that one, but okay.
Yeah, he was always saying stuff like that, and of course he would pick just like the corniest jokes to tell on the radio.
Oh yeah.
And I was on the air with him for 2 years, and I just used to give him so much grief. I mean, the poor guy, he'd make this pathetic joke, and I'd go, "Oh, you are kidding me," But he was such a great sport. He would always laugh and be very self-deprecating. He really was wonderful to work with. I enjoyed my time with him tremendously. Radio is the only job where you get paid to have fun. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, it's true.
It's great.
And Charlie was in LA radio for 50 years almost.
Oh, my God, I know. I cried real tears the day I heard he passed away. I was really bummed out. Josh, I am taking you with me because I promised my girlfriend, who is stranded at the airport, that I'd go pick her up. Do you mind driving in the car with me through the streets of Pittsburgh?
Let's go through the streets of Pittsburgh. Can you get me a Permanente Brothers sandwich while you're at it?
Oh, dear God. Yeah, piled high with French fries. That's the funny thing about Pittsburgh. It's like everything is piled high with French fries. If you order a salad here, it comes with cheese and French fries.
Oh, good.
Why be healthy?
Yeah, no.
It just makes me laugh. I just think, okay, well, that's one way to live. And
yeah.
I clearly spent a significant amount of time in California where I learned to be moderately healthy. So yeah, it's been an eye-opening experience here. a thigh-opening experience, too, while I'm at it, I believe. Yeah, that's
sounds like a Tuna-ism almost.
Yeah, I know. That sounded a lot more off-color than it was meant to be. I should have said thigh broadening. That would have been better.
Broadening.
Anyway, yeah. Dear God. Anyway, so tell me, what else is going on with you?
Let's see. I'm doing a comedy group called Upside Down Comedy, where we do clean stand-up and some improv and some comedy sketches. And
that's so cool.
We had a performance about a month ago, and then me and my best friend we started our own production company, mainly for his own, scripts and stuff. So we're working with a friend of ours to do a movie, a biopic of two famous guys. We can't say who it is, but you'd know who they are if we mentioned them. Otherwise, they'd have to kill me if I told who they were.
Well, it's all right. And my powers of BSP are so bad, you don't have to worry about me being able to guess.
But in case somebody's listening, down the line.
Yes.
But, and then I was also on a parody show called The Fake News Show for a couple of months. And where we parodied headlines. It was almost like not necessarily the news in certain ways. So I played the reporter. One time I played Dr. Anthony Fauci. Another time I played Bill Clinton's fictitious neighbor, a nephew, Paul Clinton, who Hillary sent to Mar-a-Lago to bleach Trump. It was like, oh, I'm afraid of Donald Trump. I don't want to go down there. And Hillary's like, listen, you're not going to meet him. And then sure enough, Paul meets him.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny.
So it was I think it's supposed to be coming up again, the fake news show, but I've been so busy with the podcast and the comedy that I'm hoping to go back there too. But right now it's just my schedule's been bonkers.
Yeah, well, people don't realize how much work goes into producing a good podcast, I mean, it's one thing to get the interview, and then you've got to go back and edit it, and then you've got to add a little music and the singers and this and that, and before you know it, you've spent days.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And not to mention the pre-research, looking at, to write the questions out and what direction you go, because, sometimes you're like, okay, I got to see if I can find any more information. From it, and just so it's kind of like that, and like you said, the editing process. With me, what I usually do is I'll make each segment about 20 minutes the most, because I know that unless you're like a Joe Rogan or an Adam Carolla, nobody's going to sit through an hour or two long interview all the way through.
Yeah. And, Terry Gross makes it sound real easy, but she does have nice producers who do a lot of work for her, too.
That's true. Did you ever work with Terry?
I wish. I would love to work with her. She is just such a pro. No, I have not. I was really pretty much limited to, whoever I was on the air with in Los Angeles. And it was great. I was on the air for 12 years in LA, and that's a pretty good stretch. It was extraordinarily fun, and the perk was that every so often you'd meet somebody and they'd say, "Oh, you're on the radio," and it was like, "Oh wow, you heard me," But yeah, so it was nice. I mean, that was a nice little perk. I think one time my brother was golfing with some guys, and you know how older brothers are; they never think their little sisters know anything, and he told them his name was Bob Tunno, and they said, "Oh, are you related to Fran Tunno?" And he just had to chuckle, like, oh no, they know her. That was great. It made me feel good anyway.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably like, keep golfing, get over there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, shut up about my sister. Let's golf. Anyway,
yeah, exactly. Well, tell us about your background and how you actually got into journalism? Because I remember that was one of the main things you did when you first got into the broadcasting industry.
Yeah, well, Oh, man, this is a long search. How much time do you have?
Oh, how much time do you have is the question.
Well, I'm driving, so I've got plenty of time. No, I always really liked writing, and I was convinced that I could not write until I took a writing class at UCLA, and this woman named Pax Quigley taught it, and she made me feel so good about myself. She said, "You can write." She said, "You just have to write about what you know." And so I thought, you know what, I was working at a job right out of college that I didn't like. I was a sales rep for Warner Lambert. I sold Listerine, Listermint, Effordent, Evergrip, Schick razor blades, and Sinutab. Talk about exciting. So after 4 years of doing that, I thought, if I have to do this one more day, I will kill myself. So I moved to LA, and I had a friend who lived out there, and I decided I would take some classes at UCLA where I met that woman, and then I decided, well, you know what, I'm just going to get, it was called a professional designation in journalism, because I already had a degree. And I just thought, I'll do this for a couple of years, and it was great because I had an internship at KHJ TV in Los Angeles, and it was just wonderful, and that got me into writing and producing for different TV shows. I worked, I kicked around a lot, and did some producing. I worked for a company called JNext TV News Services, and we did a lot of marketing videos. And then I happened to take a voiceover class, and I was talking to Denise Fondo, who I'm sure you know. She's been on the air for ages, because she lived right next door to the man I was dating, who I eventually married. And I told her I was taking this voiceover class, and she said, "Oh, wow." She said, "I didn't know you do that." She said, "Would you ever be interested in doing traffic?" And she was working for Rhonda Kramer at the time, who had her own traffic agency. And I said, well, I never really thought about it. But she said, well, why don't you put together a demo for us? And I thought, how in God's name do I do that? I have no idea. But I did, and they took me on. And Rhonda taught me, everything she knew about broadcasting and doing traffic reports. She was really, really good. Mm-hmm. And it was great to learn from her. I sat in this little room with her, and we did traffic reports all morning long, bouncing from one station to the next. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And then, let me think. And then they ended up, their company got smaller, and they got bought out by Metro Networks. And then I decided that I was going to be off of traffic for a couple of years. And then I wanted to have a family, and I said, hey, morning. So, like an idiot, because you have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But it actually worked out really well because the kids and I went to bed at the same time, and I got up a little earlier than them. But it was great because I could spend all day with my kids. But I worked for Metro Traffic from 1991 to 2001.
Wow.
And it was nice because I got to be on the air with, oh my gosh, so many really cool, fun people. I was on the air with Ken and Barkley.
Oh yeah.
For 6 years. I was on with Michael Jackson. There were so many wonderful people I got to be on the air with. It was really fun.
How much banter did you have between yourself and Ken and Barkley? Because we're talking about Ken Minyard and Roger Barkley.
Oh my God, they used to talk to me all the time. It was so much fun. We had a ball. I mean, they actually interviewed, Ken interviewed me beforehand because they interviewed a few people from Metro to see who might click. They were looking for the person with the weirdest, most bizarre sense of humor, and of course that would be me.
There you
go. So, at one point in the interview, and I truly think this is what sealed it, Ken had lost the little screw that went to his glasses, and they came apart. And I was in the interview, and at that time, I think I was 7 months pregnant, 5 months, something like that. And I said, don't worry. I said, this is one of my superpowers. I'm really good at finding little things on the floor. So I get down on the floor and I'm crawling around looking for the eyeglass screw. And I never found it, which made me very sad. And afterwards, I sent him a thank you note just to say thanks for meeting with me. It was really fun. And I said, only in Los Angeles would you find yourself 7 months pregnant crawling around on the floor looking for a screw. And I think that appealed to the twisted side of him. And there you go. A future was made.
This is the Talkie Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs. We're talking with radio personality, voiceover talent, and now author Fran Tunno. Next time, we'll find out more about her time at 790 KABC and specifically the Ken and Barkley Show, KABC, the Ken and Barkley Company, as they called it.